To the live stream. Excited. We are continuing our conversation about revision. We're continuing it all month, actually. And today we are diving into furthering the conversation on feedback and handling also the emotions that come up when you get feedback. So, thank you so much for joining me. Make sure that you like, subscribe, and enjoy the live. And I will introduce myself. My name is Kristen Iris Johnson. I am a showrunner, film producer, screenwriter, and CEO of Black Screenwriter Alliance, which is a membership community where we bring together emerging Black film and TV writers to elevate their writing craft, confidently build industry relationships, and learn how to forge your own path in the industry, but with other Black screenwriter, Black creator allies, because community and allyship amongst each other is supremely important, especially in this industry. So you can go and check us out for free for 7 days at blackscreenwriteralliance.mn.co. All right, let's dive in. So, your script, whether it is film or TV, it is your baby. I understand. Believe me, I've had that feeling. You care so much about it, you put so much work into it. So, when you get to the point of getting feedback and the feedback is hurting your feelings, it can feel devastating. All right, I understand. The feedback, you may get feedback that is harsh, that can any kind of negative feedback, especially if the feedback is like real harsh, that can definitely stir up our insecurity. It can make you angry, you can be hurt, it might make you sad, it might just make you really frustrated. It can even make you feel like, what is the point of this? Should I even continue, or am I even good at this? Should I quit? But here's the thing, you can't let harsh or negative feedback make you give up or want to quit, right? You came into this for a reason. You came into screenwriting because you had a voice, you had a story that you wanted to share. So I say you got to stick with it, because you're going to get all kinds of feedback in this industry. And to be honest, you're going to hear a lot more no's than you are yeses in this industry. So you do have to be able to manage the emotions of that and the emotions that may come from that kind of feedback, if the feedback is not what you are, if it's not like, oh my God, this is brilliant, I love it. All right. So how do you manage that? Well, the first thing is, when you send your work and you are, especially if you're expecting, oh my goodness, something is in my eye, especially if you are sending your work for feedback, whether it is to writer friends, whether it is in a table read, or it is to, producers or other people. One, expect feedback. Expect people to come back with ideas or suggestions or seeing things that you may not have seen, right? That is why you send for feedback, is so that you can make your story better. So expect your story to not be perfect. Expect people to come through with their own thoughts, and that can help mitigate some of the emotion that happens on the other side of feedback, because you're going into it with an expectation of, yes, there's going to be suggestions for changes, and I'm going to be open to that. All right. Now, let's say you are getting to, after the feedback, you get feedback back, and maybe it is from some friends, maybe it's from producers or execs, maybe it's from, a nameless face that, sent feedback from like a screenplay competition, or you paid for coverage and you don't even know who the person is. And if that feedback was harsh, they didn't like it, maybe from the feedback you can tell that they were not culturally connected to what your story was, or there's something about it that just feels rude. That, like I said, can trigger the emotion. So the first thing is, if you are getting feedback from someone where it renders a response, like a producer or an exec or someone, if you are in your feelings, do not respond. Hold. Just wait. You don't have to respond as soon as that email comes through, right? So you can hold. Don't respond when you are in a strong emotional space. All right, wait. If you are on a call with someone and the emotions are coming up and they're giving you this feedback, um, obviously you have to say something. That would be a good time for like okay, thank you for your feedback. I'm going to take that and explore. Just that way you're not committing to responding with what you're going to do. You're not committing, you're not trying to get into this really in-depth conversation. If you are not in that space for it, that is a time to say, to give a kind of response of like, okay, thank you, I received that. I'm going to look into this more and explore. And that way it keeps it open to options. All right, this will be I'm going to circle back to this one in a little bit. All right, so like I said, if this is not like a face-to-face thing and it is someone that you are expected to respond to, pause, do not respond while you are in a strong emotional state, just wait. And then feel your feelings. All right. It is okay to have emotions. It's okay to feel sad. It's okay to feel insecure or angry or have doubts, but you cannot stay there. We don't get anywhere by denying our emotions, just to be honest. Like people say you have to have a tough skin, et cetera, et cetera. As writers, we are sensitive people. We are insecure people. We can be secure about our skill. And then as soon as that script goes out, we're suddenly insecure. So we don't get anywhere by denying our emotions, because if you deny it, you cannot actually deal with it. If you pretend, if feedback hurts you and you pretend that it doesn't hurt you, you can't actually deal with all the things that hurt is doing to you and move through that and move past it, which means it's going to fester and it's going to show up somewhere else. So feel the feelings, pause, take some breaths, maybe go for a walk, identify the feelings, remind yourself it's okay that I can feel this way, but now I got to move. Like I got to move forward. So it's okay to feel the feelings. You have to move through that though. And like I said, we don't get anywhere by denying our emotions. We also don't get anywhere by drowning in them, by wallowing in them and staying stuck in them. Because when you do that, staying stuck in it, letting it pull you down is a fast way to make excuses for not moving forward. It is those kinds of things, getting stuck in the emotion, that makes you start to really believe the doubt, make you really believe I'm not good enough, make you really believe, oh no, this sucks and this isn't worth it. And that is not actually a place that is going to move you forward, right? The emotions can happen, but you don't want those emotions to get rooted and start turning into deeper beliefs about yourself or about your writing. So how do you come out of it? This is where you have to separate your ego from the feedback and separate the feedback from your worth. All right. Your worth as a person, your value as a person and as a creative is not decided by how your story is received or perceived. Okay. So when you separate, this is feedback about this script or about this story. This is not saying that my voice doesn't deserve to be heard. It is not saying that I am not a person who has something worth saying, or that I'm not worth somebody taking a chance on me. It's not saying that. It is feedback about the story. And that feedback means that you are getting something that tells you what's not working, what's not clicking. Even if it's said in a harsh way, there may be things in there. So like separate yourself, your ego from the feedback, and separate your your worth from how your story is received and perceived. Then remember your why as a writer. What drives you? Why are you doing this in the first place? Because you came into writing for a reason. So what is it? What's that reason? And when you can root yourself in the purpose of why you are doing this, you are not going to stay drowning in those emotions. You'll be like, all right, cool. Maybe this didn't come off well, or I need to really do some work on my writing. When you stay rooted in your why, you can take the feedback, harsh, hurtful, however much it may piss you off, and you can actually do something with it. Every piece of feedback, even if it is, you're just like, what was this person thinking? Or they were not paying attention to my story. There is still something that you can learn from what you are getting, even if it is a lesson about the experience. Okay, I need to make sure that I'm sending this to people who are really going to look at it seriously, whatever lesson it is that you want to take from it. But remember your why as a writer, remember what drives you, and root yourself back in that purpose. And that becomes where you can stay grounded and where you can operate from. So From that, also, the next thing is to remember to be in service to the story. This is again where ego needs to separate, where the perception and the beliefs and ideas you are putting on yourself as a person based on this feedback separates. It's not about you and your ego. It's not about what it says about you as a writer, although there may be things in the feedback that show you, oh, this is where I can improve, or this is where my weaknesses are. This is where I need to get stronger. But remember to be in service of the story. So if you're looking at feedback that is harsh, that is hurtful, that is rude, but you're really looking at it and you're like, okay, but this part I can take and this is going to make this story better. Yeah, it hurt. It hurt to get that note. We're like, ooh, they hated the whole story. Okay, if they hated the whole story, but they gave you reasons why, what part of that feedback is something that you can take to be like, okay, actually, they've got a point. This part was weak. I can strengthen this. It's not about totally reshaping your story into something that that specific person wants. What it is about is taking the feedback that you get from that person or any other person and looking at your story and saying, okay, how can I use this to be in service to writing a better story? How can I make this story stronger? And when you focus on being of service to the story, it takes you out of that ego element and the, oh, this is what it says about me, and it allows you to actually improve the story and improve your writing and yourself as a writer at the same time. So that is really important. And that's a really powerful way that you can take this, managing the emotions of it and make it not about you. And remember that this is a time to be about the story. All right. Now, the other thing is about pulling yourself out of, the emotional spiral is looking at what is true and what is false about your thoughts and emotions that are coming up. All right. So if you start spiraling and it's like, oh my God, I'm terrible. I I don't know what I was thinking. Is that true? Is it true that you're terrible? Is that really what the feedback is saying? Or are you taking the feedback and you are putting this other meaning on it? You need to identify that. That can be a powerful way of pulling you out because we can start taking the feedback, taking the harshness, taking whatever's making us angry or frustrated or sad or hurt or insecure, and we start molding that into all kinds of stories about ourselves, about our story. And so you mold that into a narrative and you need to come out of that. Like, what was actually said? What is the story that I have assigned to what is being said? And is that story true? Right? So that's part of it. Is the story that I am building out of this feedback true? And by story, I mean story about yourself, not story about your story. I could see how that might be confusing. The other thing is there may be things explicitly that they said that may or may not be true. Just because someone gave you feedback doesn't mean everything they said is right. It doesn't mean everything they said is true. It doesn't mean everything that they said is going to actually make the story better. So you also have to look at the feedback itself and say, okay, what part of this is actually true? Just because they said it doesn't mean it is. And what part of it is like, oh, this actually, maybe they miss this, or they're just being rude, which most people aren't. Sometimes feedback can come through. Like I have like ripped things apart before because I'm like, yo, this doesn't make sense. We gotta put it back together and we gotta make sure that it's tracking through. But I don't do it out of like just trying to like hurt someone's feelings. I do it because the story, I'm in service to the story. The story needs the work. So if you are looking at the feedback, there's what am I implicitly saying about myself or my story based on this? And then there's what is it actually saying? What is this feedback actually saying? And what part of this is true? What is not? Even if they're giving an opinion or they're like, oh, this writer's terrible. It's like, okay, is it true? Am I terrible? Maybe I need a little work. Maybe I am terrible. Okay, let me use that as motivation to get better. Maybe I'm not terrible and this person is just an asshole, or this person is just they're just not understanding the cultural context of this story, or there was a stylistic choice I made that they didn't like. That doesn't make me a terrible writer. It just means that they didn't like it. everything that a person says is not necessarily true. So you have to make sure that you're not internalizing everything they say as canon, as truth. All right. That is definitely going to help you, is really being clear what is true, both about your thoughts and emotions and also the feedback itself. The other thing is really important is rely on your people. Who is your writing community? Who are your writer friends, or even not writer friends? Maybe they're just creative friends. Maybe they're just friends. Maybe they're just regular friends. But who is in your community, but in particular writing community, who can pull you out of the funk? Who do you go to when you are like spiraling, like, oh my God, okay, I just had a moment earlier today where I was like, I was intimidated by an opportunity and I was like, oh my God, is this beyond me? Is this too big for me? And I called somebody, I was like, yo, I am spiraling and I'm like intimidated by this. And they helped me to pull out of it. And I pulled up my big girl panties and I was like, okay, now let me actually go back to this and see what I can really do and what I can bring to it. Um, so who are the people that when you are spiraling, they are the people who are like, whoa, 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 let's come back to reality. Who are the people that can say, yo, this you are looking at as if it's true and it's not true. Here's what is true. Who are the people who can remind you about the truth of who you are, of the kind of writer you are, of what your ability and your passion is, that you are worth this, that you are worth pursuing this. Who are those people? And that doesn't mean these are people who are going to BS you and tell you that you're brilliant and you have nothing to work on as a writer, when you do. We all do. We all have things we can improve on. But it's who are the people who can pull you out of the downward spiral and bring you back to the reality of the moment, and also push you. All right, now that you're out of the spiral, what are we doing next? How are the people who will be able to problem solve improvements with you, who will be able to help give you some perspective, maybe on some of the notes or some of the feedback that you're getting, that they could say, okay, well, I can see why they might say this, maybe because blah, 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 or actually, I kind of agree with them. I just wouldn't have said it like that. Here, let me give you some perspective, and the people who will be able to problem solve improvements in your story. This is why having writer community is so important. And this is why we have Black Screenwriter Alliance. So if you don't have those people, and if you do, that is awesome. If you don't have those people, you can come into Black Screenwriter Alliance and you can find those people. All right, you could try it 7 days free, blackscreenwriteralliance.mn.co. And if you have those people, come on into Black Screenwriter Alliance anyway and bring your friends, because the more people that we have, and the more people who are serious about this work, it really just gives you more access to support, to knowledge, to perspectives, to insights. And that is what you want, especially in this revision phase. Well, I don't want to say especially, because I feel like you need it in every phase. Maybe not the writing phase because you're just getting it out, but like in development, in revision, when it gets to pitching, or when it gets like moving a project forward and you're like, oh my God, the train is in motion. Holy crap, am I in over my head? You need your people. All right. So if you have your people, that is excellent. Bring them into Black Screenwriter Alliance. And if you don't have your people, come and check us out. Come join. There are people in there that are like, this is about building genuine relationships and elevating your writing craft and your support system, and building those alliances, really, and that allyship to help each other in the industry. So yes, like I said, you can come check us out. Make sure also that you like and subscribe to this channel for more. This channel on YouTube. If you're on LinkedIn, hop on over to YouTube and come subscribe so that you know when we go live. I have been going live every Tuesday, Thursday, and I'm going to continue that through this month, continuing the conversation on revision. And in relation to this feedback, once you get out of the emotion, now you got to get to work. All right. And the last 2 videos are actually really good for helping you understand how to actually, now that you're out the emotions, how do you actually address feedback, and how do you actually address revision? The last video, and we had one from last week. So go and check those out. and any other videos here. We have a whole string of videos in the Screenwriter's Mind playlist that also goes through the mental aspects of this journey and this work and how to shift those narratives. Like I said, the narratives about what this feedback is saying on you, how to shift out of imposter syndrome, doubt, how to manage fear, etc. These are the things that you need as you continue forward. And these are the things that you can access here, but it's really in the community. You are going to get that connection and that support from other people that you really need to be able to excel. So, like I said, come check us out, join the community free for 7 days at blackScreenwriteralliance.mn.co. And I will see you guys, what's today, Thursday? I will see you guys next week for another live stream. Yes, I will see you then.